Clerk. Any discussion? Questions, comments? Madam Clerk.
Would you want to amend the agenda to add the legislative priorities to the committee of the whole?
Sure. So in committee, at the end of the discussion, we have committee of the whole. Item N, we're going to add legislative priorities. The council is going to the Alaska Municipal League next week, and we need to approve the 2026 legislative priorities so we can take that down to the legislature and see if we can get some money from them. So yes. So is there any objection to me adding legislative priorities to the committee of the whole?
Okay. Mayor Cooper.
Yes.
Councilmember Carrington. Yes. Councilmember Collins.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
And Councilmember Mosher.
Yes.
It is approved and unanimous.
Thank you. Moving on, I don't see elected officials in the audience, but I do see some board and commission members. Sarah, are you still on? Are you on the Parks Board? And we have Luke Jackson here from Planning and Zoning, Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'm not sure if there's anybody else.
Sam, this is the
Oh,
agenda.
I'm sorry.
Laughing?
Oh yeah. Oh, well, not yet.
Just now.
Not yet. Oh yeah, I guess he is. So
Yeah.
So welcome. We have a new P&Z member with us, Sam Laffey. Thank you. Moving on, we have two proclamations tonight. One is recognizing Black History Month. Black History Month is observed each year during the month of February to recognize and honor the achievements, contributions, and resilience of Black Americans throughout United States history. And Black Americans have played a vital role in shaping the nation's history, culture, economy, and democratic institutions, often while overcoming systemic barriers and injustice. And the recognition of Black history provides an opportunity for all residents to learn from the past, celebrate cultural diversity, and reaffirm a shared commitment to equity, inclusion, and mutual respect. The City of Palmer values diversity and strives to be a welcoming community where all people are treated with dignity and have the opportunity to thrive. And acknowledging Black History Month encourages reflection, education, and dialogue that strengthens our community and promotes understanding amongst all residents. Therefore, it's proclaimed by the Mayor and City Council of Palmer that we do hereby recognize February 2026 as Black History Month in Palmer. And the second one is for recognizing President's Day. President's Day is observed annually to honor the leadership, service, and enduring contributions of the President of the United States. And the office of the President represents the democratic principles upon which our nation was founded, including liberty, justice, and civic responsibility. And Presidents George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, whose birthdays are commemorated during this observance, exemplified dedication to public service and the preservation of our nation. And President's Day provides an opportunity for citizens to reflect upon the history of the United States and the individuals whose leadership have shaped the nation's past, present, and future. The City of Palmer encourages residents to engage in civic learning and to honor the ideals of democracy and public service. Therefore, it's proclaimed by the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Palmer that this Monday, February 16th, shall be observed as President's Day in the City of Palmer, and encourages all residents to observe this day with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities that honor the legacy of our nation's President. Thank you. Now we have the report from Respect. They are online, and hopefully they can hear us or we can hear them. Give us a minute, please.
Yeah.
Oh, hopefully she's at her computer.
Right. It's weird.
Because 4th?
I can my email. Okay, let's take a break. I'll just shut the computer down and reboot.
Okay. All right. Hopefully a 5-minute break, please. Sorry.
This is Maya. Are you guys able to hear me?
There we go.
Magic.
It's up right there.
Turn it off.
All right. Kelsey, are you able to unmute your mic?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello. Great.
Kelsey, can you hear us at all? Yeah. That's a no.
That's a no. Kelsey, can you hear us now? We're going to have her do a presentation.
Yeah, she'll talk.
Okay, so I'm getting the go ahead to start the presentation, and hopefully we can get some audio going from the other way so we can have some questions. Otherwise, we might just have to utilize the chat function to send questions our way. Here, let me. I'm going to send a request quick to be able to share my screen here. And okay, there we go. Great. All right, and I can see my screen on the TV behind you all, so I think we're good to go. So my name's Kelsey Anderson. I want to thank you all for having RESPEC here tonight. I'm a senior planner with a company called RESPEC, and we were hired on to support the city in developing a parking and pedestrian access strategic plan. So we are very far along in the process now. So we just want to make sure that we're here giving you all an update on what we heard from the public comment period, and just kind of an overview of the actual plan itself and then some next steps. So today I'm going to do a bit of a project overview just to make sure we all remember what the plan is. Going to go through the planning process, as well as talk through the public comment period, as well as the other outreach efforts that we facilitated for this project. After that, we're going to go into the recommendation goals from the strategic plan, as well as talking through some action items, going through some examples, and then we're going to end on just kind of what you can expect for the final steps for this process. So to begin, we, like I said, were hired on to work on the Palmer Central Business District Parking and Pedestrian Access Strategic Plan. I will just be referring to it as the strategic plan from here on out because that's a really long title. But essentially what we are working towards is a comprehensive initiative to improve parking and pedestrian mobility in Palmer Central Business District, or CBD. So we're looking at how can we promote economic vitality and support local businesses while also enhancing accessibility for residents and visitors alike, all while preserving Palmer's unique character, which is just so beloved by the region, both by residents and visitors alike. So we're thinking through, are there improvements that could make getting around easier, whether that be like wayfinding or ADA accessibility, and really just looking at how are folks getting into the CBD and how are they moving when they're there. The planning process. So we started working with Nate at the city in July of 2025. We started with some background and research, really just getting a solid understanding of your current code, things like your comprehensive plan, the different planning efforts that have already happened within the CBD, the city of Palmer, and the region. Looking at things like the Net Two Boroughs bicycle and pedestrian plans, safe routes to school, and your urban revitalization projects, things like that. Once we kind of completed that background research, we dived into existing conditions. Really, this is looking at what is happening on the landscape right now. So we did some on-the-ground work as far as counting spaces, looking at striping, looking at signage, understanding the private lots versus public lots, really just cataloging all of that information into a single report, which is found actually as an appendices to the strategic planning public comment draft. We have been providing outreach and engagement opportunities really since last summer, all the way up until the end of January 2026. So this has been a project that is heavily influenced by public input, and I'll go into in the next slide just kind of really what that all looks like. And so right now we're at the strategic planning process, or we've kind of gone through that, where we've developed the actual strategic plan ready for public comment. And in there we defined 5 goals and then several strategies and actions underneath each of those goals that are really aiming at kind of that overall vision of increasing, safety and mobility and inviting economic development into the CBD. And that has been out for public comment. And then the next steps here to kind of wrap up this project in the next few months is updating the plan with some administrative changes and things that we heard from the public comment process into the final plan, and having that come to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council for adoption, and then helping with kind of any initial legislative actions that would come for implementation. So, like I mentioned, the public comment period has just recently closed. It opened December 23rd of 2025. And it was scheduled to close January 21st. We actually extended it by 10 days just to give folks a few more days to get their comments in. We received 5 comments overall via email. We shared the public comment draft on the city website with a big banner up top, as well as on the Facebook page. And so overall, comments were supportive of the planning process. People also offered up some really good ideas that we're excited to include, things like a public awareness campaign about pedestrian access and safety, as well as adding some clear signage and striping for emergency responders at the fire station in the CBD, Station 301. In addition to the public comment period, as I said, we have had a very robust and engaging public outreach process for this plan. We had surveys out to the community. We actually got 339 responses. That was open until October 31st. We attended 3 Friday Flings to get some in-person, some quick surveys. We had 63 responses from those, and that was really aimed at looking at just how people got to Friday Fling, were moving around within the CBD before and after, So those were really helpful for that kind of lived event experience. We also did a direct mailer to the residents of the CBD, really trying to understand their experience of parking, of access, mobility, and we received 5 responses to that survey. We contacted 23 businesses and owners, property owners within the CBD for stakeholder interviews, and we were able to get 9 of those. We had 9 people come back to us and participate in those. So we also have 9 stakeholder interviews on top of them presenting to the City Council and the Planning and Zoning Commission as well. So really the recommendations, the goals, this plan is built on what we've heard from the public. And I think really the overarching message was that people really want to see a focus on increasing access during events. That is like the main pressure point heard throughout the surveys, throughout the interviews, and the in-person Monday through Friday. Folks really don't have too difficult of a time getting in and out of the CBD, finding parking, or finding their way through downtown Palmer. So we developed these goals and strategies to really refine the city's role in accessibility and mobility, as well as thinking through some different ways to approach parking management that we'll go through here in just a little bit. So the planning recommendation goals, there's 5 of them. They are to ensure accessible, reliable, and safe parking year-round. This is really focused on ADA accessibility and just reliable and transparent winter maintenance. Improving downtown bicycle and pedestrian safety and connectivity is goal 2. This is looking at, once people park, how are they getting from A to B safely, or how are people walking, biking within the CBD? So there's a lot of recommendations about crosswalks, sidewalks, pathways. That's where you're really going to see those safety features as the action items. Adapt parking policies to support downtown business growth. This is looking at right-sizing code to accommodate growth. So what can the city do to incentivize, not penalize businesses as they're looking to invest in the downtown core CBD? Number 4 is optimize parking supply through management, not construction. So we're really looking at efficiency versus expenditures. So not like leaning on things like parking police and pay to park, but really looking at like just increasing the usability of what we have. How can we stripe better? How can we use signage to be more efficient? Things like that. And then finally, build a comprehensive event parking and mobility program. So we put a lot of thought into how can we really fix the major parking and circulation issue, which is the parking and mobility when it comes to events like Colony Days, Friday Flings, things like that. Okay, so just kind of a general overview of the action items. These are all very clearly defined and represented in the actual strategic plan document. For bike and pedestrians, we were looking at ADA accessibility, like I said, winter maintenance, safety features, you know, things like curb ramps, crosswalks, improved lighting, and then also looking at other action items kind of outside the non-motorized actions include things like pilot programs for like different ways to collect data about the type of movement that's happening. One thing we realized with the existing conditions report is Palmer doesn't really have kind of a baseline of travelers in and out and through the CBD. So what can we do to kind of gather some of that information so the City Council and Planning and Zoning Commission can really kind of have these data-driven decisions when they're thinking about how to move some of these strategies forward. So the next couple slides, I'm going to walk through a couple of examples of Goal 3, Strategy 1. So our recommendation for the modernizing parking policies to support business growth is really around this idea of menu-based reduction systems. So we obviously heard a lot of feedback about people who either want to get rid of parking minimums or don't want to get rid of parking minimums. And so really there's definitely a balance that can be struck here. That's going to be looking at public-private partnerships as far as like shared use parking agreements, to just make sure that we want to focus on incentivizing, right? We want to focus on the carrot and not the stick here. So I just wanted to go through a couple of examples because just reading menu-based reduction system in a strategic plan is it can be hard to visualize what that means. So the first example that I wanted to share with you would be an example for a menu-based parking reduction strategy with a maximum decrease of 30%. So what we did is we looked at the existing code for the central business district for your parking requirements, and are just offering some ways to incentivize people to essentially invest in the community, invest in community infrastructure, or invest in community partnerships to be able to decrease the required parking spaces for them. So this first example is for a restaurant or bar with a maximum capacity of 50 seats with 50 feet of frontage. So there's kind of two caveats here too. One, we are recommending a small business development supplemental reduction of 10%. That would be clearly defined in code if this was chosen to be enacted into legislation. And that also goes with definitions for things like vicinity to, right? Vicinity to public parking or vicinity to on-street parking is very subjective without a very clear definition. So for us in this example, we're really thinking of vicinity to on-street parking as something that would be defined in code as like a subzone within the CBD. So you're thinking really where your centralized economic hub already is. So as it is, right, there would be 10 required parking spaces with 50 feet of frontage. So if the business owner decides to enter into a shared use parking agreement voluntarily with another local business owner that's nearby, and then they decide to do something that is improving community infrastructure, like providing bike parking, which is making it easier for people to use alternative transportation to their business, then the city council would be able to then say, okay, you've met these different requirements through this menu. You can have a 30% reduction in your parking requirement, meaning that instead of needing 10 parking spaces, you're going to need 6 parking spaces. Just neighbors try and find parking agreements, as well as just, like I said, we really just want to incentivize how people are investing in Palmer and in the infrastructure, doing things like upgrading, sidewalks and things like that to get to their business. So the second example would be going up to a maximum decrease of 50%. So part of our planning, part of our kind of phase 1, that plan review, was also shape and size to Palmer that have recently kind of gone through different parking updates. And so one thing that we're seeing is it's quite subjective for city councils to choose what the maximum decrease for a parking reduction strategy would look like. 50% is pretty liberal, whereas 30% seem to be more of the standard that we saw between kind of the case studies that we used in developing this. So with this example, we're looking at a max capacity restaurant or bar with 100 as the max capacity with, again, 50 feet of frontage. So you're looking at 20 parking spaces and 2 are on street. spaces. So once again, looking at a person going out, getting that kind of shared use parking agreement, having vicinity to on-street parking. So really focusing on infilling the economic center of Palmer rather than spreading out into the neighborhoods of CBD. Bike and ped improvement, something like improving, curb ramps and parking, and then adaptive reuse. This one is really focused on, like we said, preserving the character of Palmer. So giving people a little bit of an incentive through a parking reduction to maintain the quality and the character of like historic buildings within the CBD. So having all of those things together, somebody could come to the city council and say, I've done my homework, I've done all these things, here's how I'm looking to invest in my community, and then you could, based on this type of recommended strategy, provide a 50% reduction, meaning that they would only require 9 parking spaces versus the 20 spaces that were required and are currently required through code. No, that was a lot. Kind of a lot, but it is something that, like I said, the real meat of it is going to be thought through writing the actual legislation, where planners and community development, public works, city council members, planning and zoning can really think through what they mean for like these definitions and what it means to have a difference between a 30% maximum decrease or a 50%. So the strategic plan in many ways is meant to be a guiding post and a starting point for some really good conversations around coming to these problems with inventive solutions, things that aren't going to penalize existing parking owners while also providing just more opportunity for folks to invest in Palmer. So where we're at now is we closed our public comment period. So right now we're updating that draft plan with some things from public comment, some administrative changes that we've talked through with public works and community development staff. And we'll have that final plan wrapped up and ready here by the end of next week. And that will be brought to the Planning and Zoning Commission and then back to you all in its final form for review and adoption. And then RESPEC will stick around for a while to see how we can support any sort of enacting legislation that would come. So with that, I would be happy to take any questions. I don't know where we're at on the audio situation for us. But we'll go from there.
She didn't even see anything new.
Yes, ma'am. You have a question for?
We have a question. We're going to test my typing speed, guys.
Okay. So some current business owners have expressed concern about potential liability with the shared use parking agreement.
Looks like we're using chat.
Wondering
That's
if that's
great.
something they looked into.
What is the question?
Some business owners have expressed concern.
About liability issues with the shared use parking agreement.
Shared use.
You don't have chat text.
Right? As long as we don't expect everything to be spelled perfectly. Right?
Okay. Some business owners express concern about liability issues with shared use parking agreement. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a valid concern. One thing to just be explicit about, right, is that any sort of shared use parking agreement is going to be voluntarily entered into by 2 private entities. So, I mean, I think it would absolutely be in the best interest of both to have a contract written out that's explicit about liability and about maintenance requirements, about all those different things. that could be something that the city kind of helps facilitate in a way of using their legal services to draft up an example contract that people could use. But it is, it is a contract between two private entities, and it will absolutely be up to them to make sure that they feel comfortable with all of the terms negotiated with what that looks like.
My question is, so as I'm reading through this, halfway talking out loud, if we are offering shared use parking agreements for a potential 10% reduction, does the strategic plan also include guidance for the city via legislation or policy on how the city would keep track of that on our end? Because
No, we're okay. If we are offering shared use parking agreements, does the strategic plan also allow for?
I'm trying to think of the best way to word this. Yeah, is there a way for the city through legislation or proposed legislation to keep track of who's still in agreement with who in case a business leaves?
For legislation.
So that if we've got two businesses who say, okay, we're in an agreement together,
Yeah.
do you know where I'm going with that?
So if one business leaves, who's
gonna notify?
who?
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, if we are offering shared use parking agreements, does the strategic plan also allow for the city to propose legislation for documentation? So if one business leaves, who is in contract with who? So I mean, that would depend. So like I said, any sort of shared use agreement would be between like two parties. So if one business, if it's just between two private entities, if somebody wanted to, if there was an option to get into like a public-private agreement where somebody wanted to secure a few more public spaces and Palmer decided that was an opportunity where they would enter into that sort of agreement, then that would end up being between the city and a private business and would have its own implications there.
So with this,
And what happens with the parking agreement and the spaces? Yeah, so once again, that's all going to be decided between two private entities. Something that we've really heard from folks was wanting to like have the opportunity to figure out parking requirements and things kind of between themselves, not always needing the government, not always needing the city to be kind of in the middle of that. So this is really an opportunity to allow just for people to work with people rather than people, government, people, trying to take out the middleman there.
it's killing me. So the agreement though is also with the city to agree to allow them to have that reduction in space. And that would have to be tracked somehow on the city side if we've got two businesses who enter into an agreement.
Only if it comes to the city and we offer a waiver for that.
Right, but
And then that's when we get involved.
and that's what I'm saying is if we offer that waiver and it is a thing that we do, if we do it just like they've got outlined here, and you've got two businesses who enter into an agreement, now between the two of them, they've got 50% reduction in parking space. One business leaves, that business is still only has to have 6 parking spaces, but the next person that comes in, I mean, what I want to make sure is that if they are going to be presenting this to us as a whole with the final plan adoption and the draft and acting of legislation, that is covered in what they're saying. Do you know what I mean? For that particular situation.
I do understand. Nate, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Let's see if we can fix this.
So
Are we on Zoom?
Mhm.
Okay, can you accept me? Somebody waiting. Usually you can connect this and talk through this.
Councilman Graham, I understand what you're saying, but again,
Ooh, I heard that.
If we gave them a waiver, then what would happen is, and one business leaves, that goes away.
For both businesses.
Right.
Okay, so Mike's gonna have to be like, I'm on my phone for Zoom, that way when she unmutes it, she can hear what the questions are, so we can preserve her fingers. Does that work? But I don't know how that works with back feedback.
So my question then is.
Yes.
That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, there's too
So
much.
when we ask for more money in the budget for a sound system, please don't get upset.
Okay.
I tried reading that. Okay, can we just take a break? I will log off and log back on, and we'll see if we can fix it.
Okay.
Because I'm about to lose my friggin' mind.
Hopefully 5, maybe 10.
Well,
Is that? But she didn't zoom up. If I change the zoom output to those speakers, it should work.
All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. We kind of have a little bit of volume somewhere, but is there any other questions of respect? I don't know if they can hear us, but if not, hey, thank you so much for your presentation, and we'll let you sign off. Moving on to reports. City manager's report, please.
Thank you. This week I'll be meeting with our IT vendor who's new to the city. Yep. He's done an excellent job supporting the city over the several months, and I will be adding this to our list for our meeting tomorrow. But the overall intent of tomorrow's meeting is to go over all of our current infrastructure and existing contracts to identify any cost savings we can have. We've got several internet lines, and if we can reduce those and streamline, that would be great. This will still meet our technology needs, but also increase our operational efficiency, and we expect to have overall performance and service delivery from Vicinity with these changes. And this week I met with several local nonprofits, and I'm excited to learn more about how we can support these community events and partnerships as we prepare for the upcoming summer event season. This past 2 weeks ago, staff and I attended the Chamber of Commerce State of the City event, which was an excellent opportunity for each department director to share how we currently stand in the organization and where our goals are going forward. And as an update, the city anticipates issuing, which is a necessary step for compliance. And additionally, I also want to remind any event coordinators out there that construction on Evergreen Cedar Avenue and near the library may affect traffic flow, access, and organizers to reach out to our community development well in advance so we can collaborate on solutions on how we can change some of that event flow and how it looks. And also I want to thank our finance department for their hard work and dedication to the city. I know that we're in a very busy season and coming into an audit season, and I understand how tiresome and tedious some of this work can be, and I just want to thank everyone that they are ensuring our debits and credits reconcile and that our financial records remain accurate. Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So I've heard, but not confirmed, that season passes at the golf course are not being offered, and there's been some community questions about whether that is a result of anything the city is or is not doing. I wonder if you could comment on that.
The city did not shut down golf course or season pass sales after the city inquired on February 2nd about season pass rates with the current contractor using unapproved 2020 season rates. The operator confirmed in writing that he had already voluntarily done that the day before on February 1st. And so we are going to continue that suspension until the city and the contractor come to terms on 2026 rates. But I also would like to note that we did send a proposed contract about 2 weeks ago, and it's in their legal team review, and it is going to be going back and forth between the legal review and process.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions of the manager? Right, moving on to my report. Last week I met with a group that was concerned about energy and different costs of energy and the expanding costs of energy, and looking at different forms and how to reduce costs. And obviously they're looking at alternative measures. Everybody knows that gas has become a shortage in the state, and it's becoming more and more expensive. And so they're looking at, they were trying to discuss and look at, solar and wind and potentially thermal. So that, it was a pretty good meeting, and they are going to come up with some solutions and pass them on to me here in the next couple of weeks or so. I also met with members from the Mental Health Foundation, and they are doing a study on an economic mobility study. Everybody wants the next generation to be better than our generation, to be smarter, to have more money. And they're looking at how do they do that? Go to better schools and all that kind of stuff. And what can the city do to help get involved? And my immediate answer was annexation, because for us to provide more businesses, you have to have more land. So they're looking at the community health needs. And they also they're actually going around to other people, talk about that, and they would provide me a report as well. Yesterday I met with the museum board, and to discuss issues surrounding the museum and what they're going to be doing to the current museum and different alternatives on how to make it better, signage on the roads, how do we get more people in town know that we actually have a museum, and that was a good thing as well. Tomorrow, the chamber, the main speakers are the Friends of the Palmer Public Library, and they are going to kick off their fundraiser, and it's from obviously longer then, but it's going from February 14th to March 15th, and and I don't know.
I'm right here.
Oh, if you'll come up in a bit and talk about that. Friday is it's called the 907 Gala. It's a nonprofit. The nonprofit, their mission is to restore, empower, and strengthen the at-youth risks. And that's Friday from 6 to 8:30 at the Wasilla Baptist Church, and it's a fundraiser to help support those. And that's what I have. Any questions of me? Thank you. Madam Clerk?
I don't have very much in my report. Just to remind everybody that AML is next week. So I gave you guys paper copies of your travel information, and I also emailed it to you. And then just an update, we got 8 applicants for the vacant council seat. We will be sending out supplemental questions tomorrow, Wednesday. And that's what I got. Any questions?
And those will be due in a week.
A week after that.
All right. Thank you. Any questions of the clerk? Seeing none. Our attorney's report.
Thank you. Our firm just started in January, so we don't have a ton to report yet. We're just getting up to speed, getting to know the council, getting to know the city. So this will be pretty brief. We're working closely with the city manager on a day in, day out basis on document review, RFP drafts, preparing for council meetings, responding to discrete policy and contract questions as they come up. We are working on some of those golf course related issues and contract negotiations there as well. We're reviewing and advising on a final airport PAQ lighting project contract, and preparing to assist Public Works and the manager with some FAA discussions. We are also working with Public Safety on some responses to public records requests. We're reviewing and advising on contract negotiations for dispatch contract with the Native Village of Chickaloon, and then just working on other policy and contract questions as they come up.
Any questions of the attorney? And before we move on, there's one thing I forgot, which is probably the most important of my whole comment. Councilwoman Mosier was named Citizen of the Civilian of the Quarter at her workplace for this last quarter. So congratulations, ma'am, on that. Moving on to audience participation. 3 minutes per person, limited total time is not more than 30 minutes. Please sign in, state your name, 3 minutes per person. Council meeting rules protect your right to testify and be heard even if others in the room disagree with you. Council meeting rules also ensure that those attending can express their views if they do not interfere with the rights of others to see and hear the proceedings. At all times, order and decorum will be maintained in keeping with the civility and dignity of the legislative process. Please be respectful during audience participation. No disruptions to city business or threats of any kind will be allowed. Individuals who do not follow these guidelines will be removed. Any threats against others could result in criminal prosecution. Again, please sign in, state your name, 3 minutes per person. And Josh, can you bring me the list first, please? Thanks, sir.
Jackie, go for it.
It's facing the wrong way. Good evening, Mayor Cooper and
Thank goodness Josh is here. I wonder if that's our system.
I'm so surprised.
Go on, Zoom.
Turn off and running.
There you go.
Thank you, sir. The obscene nature of books that are in our public libraries, and they are in the Palmer Library also. Now, obscenity is not what I define, and it's not what anyone defines. It's defined in case law, and it's also called the Miller test. It's in USC 18, Chapter 71, and it's also Alaska Statute 11.61.128. It has very specific strictures of what obscenity is and how unique it is. I gave the book to the board members at the assembly last week, and I see that pictures of it are going online. Now, I tend to agree with that because they are. And yet this is still in the young adult section at the Palmer Library and available for children to check out, ages 12 years old and older. This book meets the Miller test, and I can define that, and I can go through and show it, and I will be doing that at the assembly meetings over the next few months because they all took copies of the book. Now, I also want everyone to know that in this book they have the transgender agenda in there. And they tell you that if you go through puberty and you have testosterone, you will not have any lower parts. And if you go through it with estrogen with a female, you'll have a hermaphrodite. This is not correct. It's unscientific and it's not correct. And I want everyone to remember the name Varian Fox, or Fox Varian. Fox Varian is a dis-trans person who just won a court settlement from a jury in New York last Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday, could be Wednesday, of $2 million. And that was against the two medical professionals, the surgeon who mutilated her body and the doctor who ruined her health by prescribing the drugs that now have her into menopause and have made her sexually incompetent, not able to perform. And so she just won $2 million, and the very next day you saw the American Academy of Surgeons and the American Medical Association come out with statements saying they would no longer perform gender reassignment surgeries on minors. And it is for this reason. There are 26 more of these cases in the pipeline, and this book that's in the Palmer Library has that in it. Now, I think it's only a matter of time before the people who are suing start saying that the idea came from books that they got in the library, and I would like to bring that out, please, because there are reasons why I say this. It's not because it's my opinion, it's because it's law. It's in the law what obscenity is. And so, thank you so much for your time.
Tom Roberson? I'm
coming. Yeah. I have to talk to my legs. Okay, legs, you can go now. There you go. I'll lean forward and hold my breath. All right. Thank you, Jackie. You all right? Thank you. My name is Tom Robertson. I live on Marsh Road here in Palmer. And there are two things tonight that I would like to do, like you to be aware of. I've been working for some time to put a memorial right outside this building. There's a flagpole, and I want to put the memorial, which is a rock about maybe 3 feet wide and 2.5 feet tall, and it has a plaque on it dedicating to the police officer that was shot and killed in 1999. His name is Jim Rowland. And I think the least that any city could do is recognize their peace officers for sacrificing their life for our safety. That's one thing I'm still trying to do. The second thing is I still need an emergency fill station, a mile 37 on the Glen Highway. There was a fire hydrant there, and I wanted to put gravel out there, probably about 2,000 square feet of gravel, to make a pad where fire trucks could come off the highway, fill up there at the hydrant, and go. One fireman could do it with one fire truck. And the state and the federal government were willing to pay for it. I've been working on this for 3 years. And instead, what happened, there's a hydrant there, but the city pulled the hydrant out of the ground. I've never in my life heard of hydrants being pulled out. In the 45, 50 years I've been involved with the fire department, we've never taken hydrants out. I mean, there aren't enough hydrants in the whole world, and you sure don't want to be taking them out. And just saying, well, it wasn't being used. Well, there's a fire extinguisher on the wall there, and it could be sitting there for 50 years and never used. But you can't just say, well, we don't need it because they haven't been used, it's taken away. There's no insurance company in the world that's going to cover you and do something dumb like that. Or same with the police department. You can't just give them a service weapon and say, well, you haven't used the bullets in years, so we're taking your bullets back. You can have the gun, but we're taking the bullets. Now, come on, let's get real here. The fire department needs that hydrant back in the ground where it belongs. And mile 37, it's where the city has a hydrant that goes underneath the highway and it goes over to the hospital. It's about a 20-inch water line there. And it's where the new construction's been on the Glen Highway. Need the hydrant back. I need about 2,000, maybe 2,000 feet of gravel to make a gravel path. We've had too many people hurt alongside the road, like on the shoulder of the road, where people run into the vehicles. Nowadays, in the Chugach, when I was in the Chugach Fire Department, we couldn't just send the ambulance out by itself. You had to have the tanker truck to block interference behind it on the highway. So, because the ambulance kept getting hit on the shoulder. So, you bring the fire truck in to protect the ambulance. So now the tanker truck gets hit. But anyways, that's what we're doing. Oh, I guess I need to say I have a selfish motive. My son was a volunteer with Palmer, and he's a missionary right now. But someday he'll come back. So I do have a selfish motive for what it was worth. All right, thank you.
David Wilson. Thanks. Thank you.
There'll be a quiz next week. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. For the record, my name is David Wilson. I'm a resident of the City of Wastilla, but tonight I'm here to represent my employer, the Matsu Health Foundation. Handed to the clerk was our community health needs assessment. Matsu Health Foundation is a co-owner of the Matsu Medical Regional Center, and due to that, makes it a nonprofit hospital. So by IRS standards, we have to release this wonderful community health needs assessment. With this year, it's every 3 years, and this year it's over a 350-page book. So I did not carry. They like me, so I don't have to carry as many, and we have a little printer issue. So if you like your own copy, please reach out and contact me, and we can try to set one up for you. But for now, we just gave one to each of the municipal governments until we get our printing thing all worked out and established. But this community health needs assessment is, like I said, put on every 3 years with our with the Matsu Medical Regional Center. It is partnered with community members, over 24-member steering committee, many residents surveyed, interviewed, listening sessions, compiles of data, and with that they have the 6 health priorities, which is safe and stable housing, access to affordable child care, health services for all residents, safe and reliable transportation, nutritious food, and community places and spaces. And with sort of identifying some of those needs, then we go to the second step of this process, which is we'll work again with Matsu residents and with our partners at the Matsu Medical Regional Center, Regional Medical Center, to collaboratively adopt our Community Health Improvement Plan, also known as the CHIP, which the mayor was talking upon. So the next steps is meeting with, again, community leaders and developing how we're going to put this into action. And the idea is that, our Chana, as helps ensures our work is grounded in data, community voice, and accountability. And with this, we will continue, hopefully that is shared to the community. You have the QR codes here. Please pass that out, use that, look at it, look at some of the data that's there. And it can be used to help strengthening some of your community grants, some of your SETS plans, works for nonprofits for grant planning, cross-sector collaboration, partnerships and planning, help inform some of your policy decisions. So please, this is just an evaluation and learning program, folks. We would be more than happy to even give you guys your own private little information. They're doing sort of Chana's learning chapters right now. And don't forget, if you have a student, because I won't be back before the deadline of March 5th to your next meetings, our scholarship programs are deadlines on March 5th. So if you have students that are looking for that opportunity in the health programs, please feel free to reach out. Thanks.
Wes?
West Side of Palmer. There's multiple things I want to talk about. The parking, a lot of this, I want to kind of put it all forward first. Seems like a lot of what you guys have been doing, the parking issue, yet you don't want to spread it out. Most businesses right now, our costs have gone up considerably in the last few years, especially this year. It's gotten really, really bad. A 1% sales tax is going to crush us. Many of us are barely able to get afloat. In Alaska right now, we're losing about one restaurant or bar a week. The industry is becoming really, really tight. You just can't make money. Our insurance is skyrocketed. There's a lot of stuff going up. Am I going to make it? Yeah. But other businesses are going to be having trouble. The city has to take some of the responsibility. It seems with the parking issue, the city is trying to get out from having to spend any money on it. Same with the sales tax. You're putting it on us instead of trying to find a way. Annexation would help a lot with this because it increases how much money you have coming in. The fees at the airport. Raise the fees at the airport. Make the airport pay for itself. We have to look at what little things. I know Lake City Works, their equipment needs to be upgraded. There's a lot of stuff, and you guys have to look at what you're going to do to collect money. I've been saying this ever since I started coming to city council meetings 4 years ago. You guys have to figure out how to make money. One of the simple issues with the parking, if you were to limit to 2-hour parking on Main Street and did some sort of enforcement on it, yes, it's going to make you be some of the bad guys. But right now, you're putting in the small businesses that we're going to be the bad guys because I can't share my parking lot. What happens if I sign a sharing agreement with another business and then all of a sudden I have to sell my business? Okay, that other business is going to be out of code. You guys are setting this up, trying to look for ways of not spending money that is just going to create chaos. You guys got to try to figure this out inside. The whole shared parking thing is not going to work. That's going to be off the table. Do we kind of share right now? Yes, we do. We don't have agreements on it, but we do try to share because we want businesses in this town to grow, even if they're our competitors. So, thank you.
Mardine Collins?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm here representing the Friends of the Palmer Library, and Mayor Cooper already alluded to the fact that we have a fundraising campaign that we're starting tomorrow with the Palmer Chamber, and I won't give too much away yet, other than our theme will be Love to Luck, which will go from February 14th to March 15th. And February 14th is our kickoff with the Chamber tomorrow. Businesses can participate in various ways, and we'll give more details there tomorrow. And then on the 15th, we will have a Dash for the Gold, which is a run that Active Souls will be partnering with us, and will be in charge of if you want to run a marathon or half marathon or just come for fun. We're going to have a parade to start this, and I understand the mayor is going to dress up like a leprechaun. And we also have someone working on a cauldron for our pot of gold. So we have an Irish theme. We'll have music, entertainment in the depot on that day to conclude this particular fundraising event. We will have more fundraising events as we go on through the summer and fall, but this will be our kickoff event. But as a side note, one of the things we sponsor are community events and concerts. We have one of those on Sunday, this coming Sunday, February 15th at 3 p.m. at the Depot, and it's the annual Valentine concert, we call it, that the Matsu Orchestra has done for us for several years now, and we appreciate them doing that. So we'd like to invite everyone to come to that also, and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
That's all I got on that.
Anybody else that wish to come before the council?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is George Collum. I'm the manager of the golf course, and I just wanted to clarify a little bit about the season pass sales. I stopped all sales at the golf course on February 1st, not because I felt I was doing anything wrong, but I had not received a contract. I had not received a check. And I was under the impression from the council's last vote that you were unanimously voting to extend the prior contract with 3 changes. So that's how I was operating in good faith at the golf course, selling passes in the month of January. But then I felt like, okay, I probably need to stop at this point. So I wanted to clarify that. I am more than willing to operate at the golf course and sell passes and product for the city. But it is been brought to my attention that I'm not allowed to access the point of sale or operate at the golf course until the contract is complete. So I guess I would be looking for some clarification from the city council about what I should do and moving forward. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Sam Olson, Palmer, Alaska. I'm reading in your RFP for this fair market value appraisal that you put out for this golf course land that you have some reserved rights to withdraw or cancel this RFP in whole or in part at any time prior to the full execution of the contract without penalty and without obligation to any proposer. So I think I remember I told you guys in the first week of January that your proposal didn't have anything about a fair market value purchase rate, and then I listened to the last council meeting where the city manager said that this is only for a fair market value lease rate, and we would have to go get another separate independent proposal and then another one on top of that. I'm begging you guys to please do something about this before you spend excess money for no reason when you still have time to change this. Contract hasn't been awarded yet to an appraiser. You can ask them to do both, and then you can get a second one without having to do 2 more of them, and then you'll have the numbers you need. Councilwoman Carrington, I heard some comments like the last time, first week of January, about how you didn't understand how it went from save the golf course to save the contract. Well, I represent the Alaska Golf Association. And one of the reasons that the course makes money is because of how well the product is. It's a really big deal. I'm holding the state am at Palmer and 4 national qualifying events. I'm not afraid to pull them if I don't have faith in who's going to be running the golf course. But I trust George. He's been there for 20 years. He's able to do things with that course that most people can't. And I'm fearful that if somebody shows up that doesn't know what they're doing, all that revenue is going to be gone, and then the course goes away for no reason. So there's a lot at play there, a lot of agronomy, a lot of issues from soil to grass to everything. It's much more than that, and George is the one that has all that knowledge. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
My name is Joel Stefanski. Thank you, council members, and mayor, manager, attorney. Just keep beating this dead horse on the golf course. And, there was a statement that was made here months ago. Why are we looking for trouble? We're still looking for trouble. we're basically killing the golden goose. It's the only city entity that brings money into the city. And I don't know who or what is against the golf course, but it's real obvious that someone's against the golf course. And why are we're trying to bring business into the area, and yet we're trying to tear down the only thing that brings money into the city. And I just don't get it, how we divided and we purposely try to pit aviation community against recreation community. And that's just tip of the iceberg. It's purposely been done, and it shouldn't be that way. The records will show for the last 4 or 5 months how that division has been manifested. But getting back to the release of the obligation, the golf course is City of Palmer property that resides on airport land, and FAA release of obligation exactly as it sounds. It releases the golf course from the airport boundaries and gives the city of Palmer full control. Palmer successfully completed the FAA release of obligation before. Palmer is experienced in the process and can make it happen again. We all know who the players were 10, 15 years ago, who was on the city council, what attorneys we had. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, folks. It's right there in front of us. Do your homework. And it can be done. And please think about the longevity of that beautiful piece of property out there, and to continue it in the decency of the generations coming after us. It worked fine for 35 years. Nothing's perfect, but it worked fine for 35 years. Why can't we make it happen again? And I know you council members are gonna make this happen. I know the attorney's gonna make it happen. You know, I've been dealing with contracts for 28 years. I worked for a company here locally for 200 people. And I wrote a lot of the contracts. It's not a very difficult thing, folks, to write a decent contract. There was nothing wrong with the old contract, number one. Anyways, thank you very much for your time, and let's keep trying to make it positive for the community in the greater Palmer area. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak under audience participation? Seeing no one, I'll close it and bring it back to the council. Item H is public hearing, resolution 26002B, a resolution of the Palmer City Council amending the 2026 fee schedule to increase the rate of the sales tax by 1% beginning on April 1st, 2026 and expiring October 31st, 2027 to finance the construction of the new Palmer Public Library. I will open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak on that, please. Please state your name.
My name is Josh Shooter. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Just want to say thank you for your service up here. I know it's a stressful job. I gained like 20 pounds being up there, so I still haven't lost it. So I appreciate what you guys are doing. So I'm coming today as a small business owner. I own a service-based business, kind of like Turkey Red. And you know, I understand the city finance. I understand the position you guys are in. But, you know, because most of the income for the city comes from locally owned small businesses. One of the great things about Palmer is we don't have those big box stores. My fear is that by doing this, we're going to scare away investment into Palmer. You know, because think about it this way. Like if I move my business out to Anchorage, I have 0 sales tax. If I move it just a mile up the road, 0 sales tax. If I move it to Wasilla, they have a 2.5% sales tax and a lower maximum amount of taxable sales. So it literally costs money to be here. I'm here because I love Palmer. That's why most of the businesses are here. We just really love Palmer. But I want to make sure that Palmer continues to grow because I don't want us to have a situation where we're taxing at 4%, significantly higher than the rest of the areas around us. Because Palmer is not an island, right? We're competing for other businesses to be here. Because a business can choose to go anywhere around us, And we want them to choose Palmer. And the other issue too is that, especially for service-based businesses, it's more difficult because we can't just pass that on. Like when you go to Fred Meyer's, you don't really see the sales tax until the very end, right? For service-based businesses, it's a little bit different. I have clients, some of them are exempt, some of them are different areas. And in the meantime, like for example, if I order something for my vendors, I have to pay sales tax on that. And then I also pay sales tax on the services I provide on top of that. This is going to negatively impact both of those. And so really what it does is it gives a competitive advantage to those businesses that choose to locate themselves outside of city limits. It makes it so that way it doesn't make financial sense to be here inside the city of Palmer. And I really want to make sure that as a community that we are attracting businesses, that we're looking to grow and looking to have a positive impact with our small businesses and not seeing them as just something to take money from. Because my concern is that, sales tax is beautiful because it's a percentage, right? I mean, as the cost of goods go up, the sales tax revenue goes up. And I want to make sure that we're checking our spending to make sure that we're not just relying on a tax that we can move up and down on a whim, that we're making a good economic place for our community. So thank you very much.
Anybody else wishing to come forward and speak on this public hearing?
West Side's Palmer Bar. I can't move. That's not an option for my business. Straight out. It's the Palmer Bar. It's one of the longest buildings in this whole town. I mean, longest running business in this whole town. I'm worried about the other businesses. You gotta figure something out. I'm very pro-library. I'm pro-community. We have to look at how we can do this. I've had other business owners come to me and are worried about the sales tax. I do not, when I have a price of a beer or a burger, I do not charge extra for sales tax. It's included in the price. But when is that going to change if the sales tax goes in? Where people know actually, and when I go, it's the city. They're doing this. So please think about this, and you guys have to figure something out and look for other means of income. I know that you guys don't have all the income you need for what we have happening, but this is a major concern for all of us. I think if some people have to pay 1% right now, it would probably shut down their business because they're running at those final lengths. I'm not talking about me personally, but because I'll work for free to keep the bar open, and so will my partner. But other businesses don't have that option. So think about this. Poll the businesses and ask them what they think of the sales tax. We're probably your biggest source of income is the sales tax that we pay you. And if all of a sudden we start closing down, then where's your income coming from? You're gonna have to raise property taxes then. Then people will move away. You have to think of some solution that doesn't hurt the community. Thank you.
Good evening again. My name is Jackie Goforth. I live on the edge of Palmer. I don't live in Palmer. And I can make a decision when I leave my house which direction to go to buy something. And I didn't notice until the new Napa store went in. It's right there by Three Bears on Palmer Wasilla. I didn't realize that because it was close and it was convenient. But if Napa says we have no sales tax and they're in competition with Napa in Palmer, how much more people might be buying their stuff in Napa at 2 miles down the road rather than paying extra at Palmer? Having a sales tax going when you need $3 million, $4 million, $5 million. You got a $10 million bond, and that was voted for by the community. You know that. I heard that for years, how the community had voted for a bond. So I don't understand why you would put it on a figure that you can't even assure is going to be there. Because if you chase businesses out and you replace them with non-profits and with medical ones that don't pay taxes, how is your tax going to be the same that you're expecting it to be now? And when you make your commitments to construction companies, do they need money up front? Don't you need the money up front and you can't wait for it to come in from taxes? I don't know the ins and outs of this. I'm just a person who, when I get to the end of my drive and I go to the Palmer-Wasilla Highway, I can turn left and go to Palmer, or I can turn right and head to the no tax area. And it's an open world out there. You're up against Matsu Borough, which is 0% sales tax, and they have a huge option of everything too. The only bad problem is the traffic. But Palmer's starting to look at that too. So please, if you can think of any other way to do this, I would highly suggest you do. Thank you.
Anyone else listening to come forward?
Yeah, my name's Joel Stefanski. Got briefly touched on, I worked for a local company of 200 employees for 28 years. And a large part of my thing was keeping the power on in the area the size of West Virginia. And also running a crew of 10 people and $6 million budget. It's also ordering equipment and putting out contracts for clearing contractors. One of the things you always look for is things like conflict of interest and collusion in your contractors. And you also never, ever reveal that there's going to be change orders and cost overruns to your contractors. And those terms have come up back in November in council meetings. We have to be very prudent on taxpayers' money, and sometimes we have to downsize. While I was working for this company, we'd have to readjust the equipment we were buying and not always getting what we want sometimes. I'm thinking about the ratepayer, in this case the taxpayer. And those things need to be thought about. Why do we have to build a Taj Mahal for books?
Sir, are you gonna get to the resolution that's on the table? Are you just kind of just skirting the tax issue, or would you like
I'm
this?
talking about the library, the 1%. Why are we going down that route? There's a famous guy that we all know that made a famous quote, and see if you guys can identify it. You can't tax your way into prosperity. Ronald Reagan. Thank you very much for your time.
Anyone else wishing to come forward to speak on this resolution?
If nothing else, just stand up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Mike Walensky. I live in downtown Palmer. I have a slightly different tack that I've learned over the last 25 years in marriage with my wife. And the way I have learned to do things is usually not to say, let's do this. I know what the question will be, why? And so I've learned to provide information ahead of time. I was struck when I initially saw the agenda for tonight's meeting. I said, okay, wait a second, sales tax. That's an option. It could be discussed. It may prove not to be the best option for funding. But what I wanted to see was a discussion of the variety of methods for potentially adding to the monies that were already available for the library, which which would be, you know, we've already talked about it, use of some of the bonding money, various other ways of doing it. So I'm going to stress that this evening, in a bit, you're going to be talking about aspects of this whole proposal that are not available, as I looked at, in the packet. That discussion about why we would do something and this one choice of 1%, it's in the wrong place, my opinion. I think it's a valid discussion, but not before you do the broader discussion to say, okay, now that we've looked at a variety of things, here's the rationale, the reason why we want to go and propose this one to happen. I think people would appreciate that, because I and others who come up here have to anticipate what might be said. And you're going to say it all, but it's in the wrong order, in my opinion. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak to this resolution? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. And before we get on that, I'm going to relax the rules so that we'll be similar to the committee of the whole, and so that you may speak freely on this issue. And so anybody, and I will bring it back to the maker of the resolution to let her speak first.
Great, thank you. Well, I know tax is a 4-letter word, despite it not being. But so I am responsible for the proposal of the sales tax, and it is based on comparing it to the bonding issues, the library funding scenarios comparison, which was presented by the city manager several months ago, I think now, where it lays out different scenarios that would be possible with the bonding. And I hoped that would be in the packet, but I expressed what I wanted in the packet inaccurately, so I apologize if that was not in there. But one of the things that struck me during that discussion, that was during a city council meeting, was it looked at several different amounts we could take out as far as the bond. $10 million was approved by members of the city of Palmer, or residents of the city of Palmer, but we could take out less than that, etc. But looking at the scenario that would be result in the best long-term financial outcome for the city of Palmer, looking at a home, so the bond then would be paid by property taxes, right? So if you have a home valued at $400,000, which is roughly a medium sized home or average valued home here in the city currently, your monthly tax rate would go up by $139, and that would be for 20 years. So for an annual increase of someone living in an average home, we're looking at $1,700. Over 20 years, $17,000 that would be paid in additional property tax. That's significant. This is at a time where housing prices and interest rates are higher than they've ever been. And so we have an issue with folks being able to get into a home and having the difference, that additional monies owed for property tax if we went the bond route could not only hurt those that currently own homes, but those that are trying to get into homes. It can make the difference between qualifying for a loan or not. We also have a lot of renters in the area. Those costs are always passed down to renters, particularly if you have this increased cost over the span of 20 years. Landlords aren't in the landlord business for fun. They're in it to make money. Those costs will be passed down to renters. That, in addition to the fact that only 18% of library users live inside Palmer city limits. So we have residents of Palmer bearing the entire cost of this bond, even though only 18%, or I'm sorry, even though they only make up 18% of the library users. So 82% of users of the Palmer Public Library live outside of Palmer city limits. And if we went the bond route, would not be responsible for those costs at all. So to make it a more equitable distribution as far as bearing the costs of what we're short as far as financing the new Palmer Public Library, I propose this 1% increase in the cost in sales tax. Another thing that appeals to me with the increase in sales tax is that it would be approximately a year and a half of this 1% increase, and we would have what we need. Of course, we don't have exact numbers. We don't know exactly what the library is going to ultimately be cost, and we don't know exactly how much is going to come in from sales tax. But as best as we can figure things now, it would be about a year and a half, so through October of next year, that there would be this increased sales tax. There is a sunset provision written directly into the proposed ordinance, so it would not require a vote by the council to end the sales tax. The sales tax will end in October of 2027 unless some action is taken by the city council. In addition, the sales tax spans 2 summers, so it would begin in April this year, go to fall of next year. So there's our peak tourist season time. So in an effort to bring in some of what we need from those outside the community, those that are visiting our community. Again, it's to just the residents of the city of Palmer bearing that cost. The city of Palmer has been extremely conservative in resisting an increase in sales tax over the years. I didn't confirm this, but my understanding of the sales tax increase, or hasn't increased in like 30 years or something. It might have been longer. 96. And I expect that the city's approach will continue to be very conservative as far as when it comes to sales tax. But we've also heard over the last 2.5, 3 years now how important the library is to the community of Palmer, both those living inside city limits and those living outside. And so this is a situation where having increasing that sales tax in order to fund this important project would be appropriate. I also work for a small business right here in Palmer, and so I'm not going to be immune to the consequences of this. And so I understand concerns there. And we do have a higher sales tax than some of the surrounding areas, but we also have a unique community. And if we want to live in a community where we don't have big box stores and those things that bring in that additional revenue, we have to figure out some way to bring in funding. And for this particular project, when looking at your average homeowner paying $17,000 over the next 20 years, and all of us chipping in and paying 1% over the next year and a half, I would suggest that the sales tax is preferable. Also, this is if, when we ran the numbers, which are included, we ran like a 0.5% and 1% sales tax to see those scenarios, to see what outcomes might be. So that would cover the entire cost of what we now know to be the cost of the building. Like I said, of course, if people point out that could change somewhat. But so if, as we've heard, the Friends of the Palmer Public Library continues to solicit donations for the library. So if they're successful in continuing to bring in some of those donations, which they've brought in several large grants, Massey Health Foundation being one, which we appreciate Mr. Dave here representing them, and some other efforts as you've heard today, so that if we bring in the money that's needed before that October 2027 date, we could always terminate the sales tax earlier. So that was my thoughts. I don't know if there's any questions or anything from the council that I could help with. But.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have a question. So at this point with the library, we have through the state, how much did we get? 5 from the state, and then in donations already that have come in, about another 5?
About 9.2.
We have 9.2 total.
Yeah, we have 9.2 total. That's state money and insurance money and
Okay, and so
the other donations.
So the rest would be either the bond or other funding that comes in, or and it's 12 million, right? Is that where? I mean, that's what they have for the RFP for the construction.
Yes.
And then we still have to fill it up with shelves and books and tables and so what I'm understanding is that this will lower the amount of what we need for the bond, or to eliminate what we need for the bond. Is that my understanding?
This would eliminate the need for the bond.
Okay. And so that tax would go for everybody who spends in Palmer instead of just the homeowners. Okay. That's what I was trying to just make sure I understood all the pieces and parts.
Any other? Yes, ma'am.
I've heard a mixed bag of the community. Some are supportive of it, and some are not. Mainly, the portion that is not supportive of this is because of the tax rate on property taxes that have just increased 8%. Many of us have gotten our little notices in the mail. I know mine went up significantly. Just $23,000 in property taxes alone. That doesn't include the building. I think, personally speaking, I'd rather do the 1%. But I'd like to hear more from our public on this, just to see what they have to say and their thoughts.
Yes, ma'am.
I would definitely echo what Councilmember Mosier said about hearing more from our local business owners. I was unaware that there were so many businesses in Palmer that ate the sales tax. I know that the small business that we have, we pass that along. And I know anytime I've ever shopped in Palmer for physical items, not necessarily service-based items, that I've always seen that sales tax on my receipt. It's just a standard. You see it on there. It's transparent pricing, where you know what you're spending and what it's coming from, kind of thing. So, just like all businesses, as the cost of business continues going up, I think that I was unaware that it was not being shown on a lot of receipts that what was coming out of sales tax, or that businesses were just straight up eating it. So I would definitely agree that it would be nice to know how many businesses are going to be directly impacted by this, and hear more from them on that for sure. But I also agree that I also got my assessment from the borough this week, which was humbling, I guess is the best way I can put it. I didn't realize how wealthy I was. So making it more equitable with as short term of a tax as that is for 1%, knowing how that forward funding works. I know we hate to draw comparisons to Wasilla because their tax base is so significantly different as far as what can come in for sales tax. I know that this seems well scaled for what Palmer needs, and I think that it would be good to hear from other business owners to see what the financial impact of that would be. So thank you for putting this together.
Yes, ma'am.
I agree with what's been said. I would make a motion that we postpone
I'd
this.
like to speak to that first.
Okay. Hold
All
on.
right, thank you. I too owned a small business in Palmer, and I was owned it when we went from 2 to 3%. And yeah, we pass it on to the consumer. And I would venture to say, along with what Councilwoman Graham was saying, there are some businesses, service businesses, other businesses that do not pass, that they absorb the tax. My guess is the majority of the businesses do not. If you look at our main contributors to the sales tax, it's Fred Meyer and Cars are the huge ones. And I will also bring up that even though Wasillo's sales tax is 2.5%, they raised it years ago by 1%, and that's how they built their parks, and that's how they built their library. And it was a seasonal sales tax. And you go to Kenai, they did the same thing, and the city of Juneau did the same thing, and that's how they built a number of their parks down there by raising it by 1 penny and have a sunset clause. I am concerned, as Councilman Collins mentioned, that I don't want, as a property owner in town, to pay 20 years a tax that is put on us, and I don't use a library. I mean, it's a good thing that the libraries are great, but I don't want to pay $17,000 over the course of 20 years when in reality we can get it done in a year and a half. Considering that the majority of the people, the tax monies that we get in the city are not paid for by all the 6,000 residents that live here. We service, 15, 20,000 people around the area that live in the Butte and come through Palmer, and they shop and they get gas and they get food and they get, goods and stuff from Palmer. And yeah, if you're willing to drive another 15 miles, 30 mile round trip and spend $4 on gas, then, I guess you can do that. But to me, it only makes sense that, we get the people that live outside the city and get their tax dollars and not tax our people. I want to make it the best and the quickest and the easiest way that we can do that. I do not want to take, we have the money in the bank that we could actually pay for this, but if you pull $9 million out of our bank account, that takes a long time to recover. And if we go with the $10 million bond and allow the public to pay for it, that costs the city $740,000 a year. That takes away from other services that we can be providing to the people who live here, whether it's new roads, new streets, new sidewalk, crosswalk, street lights, whatever, bike paths, whatever it is. That means that takes away money. And Wes brought up a good point. Where else are we going to get that money? It's going to be difficult. So the lower that you bring that, even if you bring it down to a $2 million bond, it takes our cost down to like $200,000, which is doable. It's not $700,000. And the other thing is, like I say, I'll go back to the citizens. I do not want to tax our people that when 12% of the people who live in Palmer are using the library and the rest of the people are actually paying for it all. Ma'am, please.
I want to hear more from businesses and look at a closer look at this, because it's kind of new information and a way to look at this. And so I make a motion that we postpone this until 2 weeks.
The next meeting?
Yeah, the next meeting.
I support that.
All right, so that's a second. All right. Any discussion on that? Madam Clerk. So the motion is to postpone this until February 24th meeting.
Councilmember Carrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosier?
Yes.
Mayor Cooper?
Yes.
It is unanimous and approved.
Thank you. Moving on, no action memorandum, no unfinished business, no new business. Items placed on the table. Madam Clerk.
I just have the documents from Matsu Health Foundation.
Thank you. Okay. Next item is audience participation. Again, 3 minutes per person. If you want to come up and testify, please. 3 minutes.
Wes Hart's again, Palmer Bar. Some of the stuff that I was curious, I'm just curious, how do our property taxes compare to surrounding areas? Some of the other questions, what are the areas that get the most city services that are outside of the city? Because we need to look at annexing first on this to help pay for this. It's very important. Then also, when we're looking at the property taxes, what special groups are getting deductions? What special groups are getting some sort of help with their property taxes? We need to figure out, is everyone paying their fair share? Is some people getting special deductions, a higher percentage of the population getting deductions? Nationwide, the only reason why I'm saying this, and in no way do I want to be targeting different groups, but across the country, they are noticing that there's a consolidation of money in the older generations. And so the younger people and the renters, they don't have the money, they don't have the income. There's a lot of people in this community that are going around, they can't go over to Wasilla to eat. So it's going to affect the people in Palmer. And if we don't keep the younger generations here in the community, Palmer will die. And I say that, and probably the average age of my customers are in their 50s in my bar. But the younger people struggle more, and then the older people. So yeah, look at annexing first. See who's getting the city services, what areas get the most city services that are outside of the thing. And I would like you guys to really look and have an open discussion next meeting talking about annexation among yourselves to start looking down that road. Because I think in a few years, we're all of a sudden going to become the fourth largest community. The way Houston and Big Lake are growing, they're going to bypass us here real soon if they haven't already on population size. So that means we have less say in the borough. Just things to think about. We have to grow. And if we don't grow, we'll be a suburb of Wasilla, kind of like Key River is of Anchorage, like Kirkwood is of Anchorage. Something to think about, though. Thank you.
Mr. Tudor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wes said it very well, and I definitely have the same concerns. You know, when I look at the growth in the Matsu borough, it is going north. I mean, I think that's why we lost the troopers, right? Because they're seeing more of a demand toward Wasilla, and I've seen that here. I've had clients that were a small business here in Palmer leave because Palmer can be difficult because we're a small city, right? There's just less resources, less people, less customers, and a lot of them they're moving to Anchorage or moving to Wasilla. And so my concern is that if we do this, we're going to be hurting the source of revenue that the city has, which is also going to in turn make the figures of how much sales tax revenue we're going to be generating go down. And oftentimes this will be a slow effect because it takes time to move. But I'm worried that businesses are going to start moving out of Palmer because they're going to be looking and going, well, why would I be here and pay a 4% sales tax when I can be over there where there's more customers, there's more land, there's more choice of employees, all that sort of thing, just right over there, either in the borough where again 0 sales tax, or in Wasilla with 2.5%. And a lot of them, I'm worried, are going to go, well, I'm going to move myself out to somewhere else. And so I understand, I'm glad we're having this conversation. I understand the concern about, property tax versus sales tax, but this will have a very distinct negative impact on the economy of Palmer.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Tashi Garrett. I'm curious if anyone has looked at the governor's proposal for his taxes coming up here and how that would impact or change a vote in either direction. Can you speak to that? Thank you.
Anyone else? We're at council comments. Councilwoman Graham. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Do we have a list of legislative priorities?
I can have it printed out. I wasn't sure.
I forgot. We're supposed to do legislative priorities for us to go to Alaska Municipal League this next week. And we have a 2024-2025 approved list. We need to approve a 2026 list, which is very similar to 2025.
Do you want to take a quick potty break? And I'll get
Yeah,
this done?
let's take a 5-minute break, please. To bring the council meeting back to order, and we almost had a new council member. Okay, so we're here to talk about the 2026 capital projects and legislative priorities. Now, we did discuss this when we were doing the budget. And you now have documentation in front of you that talks about 2024, 2025, and 2026 capital projects. And 2024 and 25 are what we brought forth to the legislature. And on 26, if you go down and you look at the fourth item down, it's Palmer Public Library, and I'm going to ask that we remove that from our ask to the legislature. We already got $5 million from the state, and I do not want to go back and ask them for this $2 million. And you can see what all the others are, and like I said, we've already talked about this. Does anybody have any questions or concerns, Madam Manager? Would you like to?
Yeah, I would like to, at the request of the fire chief, remove the rescue vehicle and replace it with fire department radios for $250,000.
So bringing that over from 2025.
On the 2026 capital list, the very bottom, rescue vehicle, $400,000. The chief has requested that instead of asking for a rescue vehicle, that we ask for radios.
Is that the same item that's on 25?
Yeah, is that in addition to what was in 25 for radios? Or is that just not?
It's different.
Okay.
Because, hold on, at the end of 2026, the Alaska Land Mobile Radio System will no longer support the radios that are not time division multiple access compliant. As a right, the city of Palmer and Rescue must replace the existing non-compliant radios to maintain the ability to communicate with dispatch and operate safely within the fire service area.
And that's $250,000.
$250,000.
Thank you.
And it would require 40 of these radios is what we need to be compliant.
Any other questions of the city manager? Like to discuss them together? Or? Like I say, we discussed this during our budget season back in October, November timeframe. Does anybody have?
The rescue vehicle for $400,000, is that something that we can talk about on the FY27 capital improvement?
Sure, we can, we'll discuss that with the chief during the budget process, so that's something that the department still needs. We absolutely will discuss it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? Is everybody happy with what we have on as a list? All right, so we will take this forward to the legislature next week.
Perfect.
Thank you.
That's all I needed.
All right, moving on to council comments again. Councilwoman Graham, we'll let you go first. Or did I do you first last time?
No.
Okay.
No. So real quick, just full transparency, I am the only council member who's not going to AML next week. I'm going to be in town, so there will at least be somebody here. I hope that all of you guys have a great time at AML. I've heard really, really good things from many people who've gone. I think that it's going to be very valuable for how many people that we've got going. It's going to be a really benefit to the city. I want to thank the city manager and staff for the work that they put in between the last meeting and now, getting us some answers from the FAA regarding next steps, along with some of the processes that have been going on behind the scenes regarding the alcohol permitting situation. I know that was a lot of work, and that's a lot of different government agencies that you guys have been balancing, so I really appreciate that work. Real quick, I just want to touch on there was a comment from a citizen regarding the police memorial that they were trying to have put out front. There is a police memorial for Officer Rowland that is at Palmer Police Department. It's out front between like the two sections of the building, so if anybody's interested, you can go there, you can pay your respects, you can see the beautiful memorial that has been put up there out front in honor of him and other fallen officers. And I think that is it, and thank you to everybody else who's come out, and good luck to the mayor picking another city council member.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to thank everyone for coming out tonight and just sharing your thoughts on the 1% increase in the sales tax. Great conversation starter. Again, I'd like to hear more from our community on that. Going back to the golf course, I think we will find a way forward. We just have to have patience and allow the city staff and the team to work together to get through those issues. I know it's taking a lot of patience and a lot of time, and but I think we will eventually move forward with that. Thank you to Respect for their thoughts and their process for the parking and pedestrian study tonight. I know that the Planning and Zoning Commission will have a lot of work to do in checking their municipal code and seeing what can be adjusted and what can't, so I can't wait to hear from the commission. And I'd just like to say too, happy Valentine's Day early, and have a great week.
And it's to you now.
I just want to say again, I think what gentleman talked about beating the dead horse. I want to hear from you guys, and I'm glad you guys come and again and keep us, your passion is observed and it's seen, and it makes a difference. And so, and same thing with the taxes and whatever issue we have coming in, we do want to hear from you guys. And so I just appreciate those that are involved in the process of what we do. And I just keep it up. We'll keep trying to do our homework. That's all.
Councilwoman Thomas.
Thank you. I also appreciate everyone coming out this evening and sharing their thoughts. I will see if we can get the library funding scenarios comparison put in the agenda or the packet for next meeting. And I think you guys find that, anyone interested in this issue would find this really interesting as far as comparing what our options are for funding the library. And it's really clearly written, and I appreciate Madam Manager, and I think Ms. Davis as well worked on that, and so it's a good document. And that's all I've got for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, to everybody, thanks for coming out and expressing your beliefs and concerns and comments. Along with Councilwoman Mosier, Valentine's Day is Saturday. I hope everybody has a good day, and respect all the people out there with flowers or whatever. And City Hall is closed Monday for President's Day. So with that, I have nothing else. We are adjourned.